The presumption of the Russian formalists is that ordinary language has to be deformed in literature in some way because of this use of language made strange, the everyday world should suddenly become unfamiliar. Because of familiarity, we don't even notice a lot of things around us. But when the ordinary world becomes unfamiliar, you begin to see those things. On your way to this class, you must have passed a lot of wild flowers that fluttered and danced in the breeze. Who knows? You never stopped so that spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings will be there and later they can be recollected in tranquility. Nothing happened. You just trampled upon those flowers and walked by. Because you are familiarized, because your perceptions are habitual, you have stopped seeing. And it takes a Wordsworth to defamiliarize the habitual perceptions, to give us a fresh insight into things. When he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. What did you do? Wander lonely as a cloud? What are you talking about? Like that we sit up and listen. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. Okay, come to the point. What are you trying to tell us? No, he doesn't. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. When all at once I saw a crowd. What crowd? It goes on like that. And that is a defamiliarized, perception. It is ordinary language that is deformed by the use of similes and metaphors. Because in normal speech, we don't speak in similes and metaphors. Of course, Russian formalists are closely related to the modernists. And a very useful, sentence that a useful line that I think will illustrate this is our first line from Winover. In the Winover, what is his name? G.M. Hopkins say? Hopkins says, I caught this morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin. Nothing you understood. Did you try reading the Winover before the teacher taught you in your BA or MA class? I did not understand. I caught this morning. I know only the one meaning of caught. Caught a ball. The cat caught a mouse. I caught this morning. How can you catch this morning? I caught this morning's minion. I looked at the glossary meanings. Morning's darling. What do you mean by morning's darling? Kingdom of daylight's dauphin. So strange, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. How does Hopkins write such poetry, you wonder? Brilliant man. All these lines come to him suddenly. It doesn't come to me. See, it is easy. He took an ordinary line like this. Enough. He took an ordinary line like this. I saw a falcon this morning. I saw a falcon this morning is something that everybody can write. I saw a falcon this morning. Does it look like poetry? However much I try to sing it, it is not poetry. It is prose. Like blank verse. Poetic prose probably, but it is not even poetic. I saw a falcon this morning. How do you transform it into poetry? Instead of saw, you write caught. Because caught has a metaphorical significance. It means see immediately. There is a power in the word caught. There is an immediacy in the word caught. So instead of saw, you write caught. I caught a falcon this morning. Oh, then it's terribly misleading. It will mean Hopkins spread a net and he caught a falcon this morning. No, we have to change it. I caught this morning a falcon. Bring it here. I caught this morning a falcon. That also doesn't sound like poetry. Change falcon. I caught this morning's minion. Kingdom of daylight's dauphin. Dappled dawn drawn falcon in his riding, etc. Isn't it ordinary language that Hopkins deformed? I, instead of saw, caught. bring this morning here. I caught this morning. Instead of falcon, say morning's minion. Then add another metaphor, kingdom of daylight's dolphin. That is how you write poetry. Poetic language is ordinary language that has been deformed in some way, defamiliarized in some way, that has been distorted, so that we are forced into a dramatic awareness of language. When I say I caught this morning, see, it is like when I teach, unknowingly I'm using a number of devices. Sometimes I am talking in a dramatic manner. It is not like ordinary talking between two people. I'm highlighting certain words, I'm giving a tune to some changes I'm making to my intonation and tune, isn't it? Then, what other devices am I using? These are all formal devices. Gestures, pictures. Then, it is like in a Brechtian theatre. What Brecht did in his theatre is what Russian formalists are advocating in poetry. Instead of showing one story normally, cut it, change its chronology, use formal devices like putting up placards or... See, there is something wrong. Normally what I should have done is I shouldn't have talked about it. About naming process. In the next class, I will, as if nothing has happened. Normally, that is what normal people would do. In the next class, as if I have already taught this all my life, I will say, Sasya rejected the idea that language is a naming process. Some extension students, what? That is not what you said earlier. That is what I said earlier. Like that, I will shut them up. Now, I used a formal device, a dramatic device. I wrote it on the notice board, and because it has an effect. These are Brechtian techniques of alienation, defamiliarization. A good teacher should use these techniques, because then these things will stay in our minds. It will make us think. Otherwise, it will be like you have eaten opium. Even after all this, it is like you have eaten opium. Isn't it, Rohini? A good teacher should always use devices that defamiliarize, because defamiliarization makes you think. It makes your brain active. Did you understand? A literary artist should also defamiliarize, because they are Marxist in orientation. The Russian formalists are Marxist in orientation. They are, one thing, they belong to Russia. And because they are Marxists, they don't want the people to go into a dreamy state over poetry. They want the people to sit up and think. That is why they advocate defamiliarization or literariness of language. Did you understand? So, ordinary language should be defamiliarized or made strange, so that it will force us into a dramatic awareness of language, refreshing our habitual perceptions and rendering objects more perceptible. Things that we don't even notice suddenly become more perceptible because of defamiliarization. This type of language is different from the practical language used in everyday discourse. Literary language has no practical function at all and simply makes us see differently. Literary language has no practical function. It is something that makes us see differently, only used in literature. It has use nowhere else.